basement of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Vault. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe, and yesterday was just a phenomenal slate of games. I mean, you had big NBA games, you had the NHL All-Star Game, the NFL Pro Bowl. I know how exciting everyone is about that. And then above all else, though, there was Coach K getting his 1,000th win against St. John's. Really good game. I mean, St. John's really made it interesting, really outplayed Duke in the first quarter, but I mean, in the second half, it was all Duke. St. John's just really wasn't organized enough to come away with that one. But Duke did win 77-68, and it's all about Coach K and what his career has meant. And when I kind of sat there after the fact thinking about it, it just, to me, his career is not just about building the ultimate culture of winning. It's that his players always had to meet standards and always did things the right way. And I mean, I think when you look at Duke, I mean, it's a university that's very, very heavily emphasizes academics, and that's why I think it's always been hard for Coach K sometimes, because he can't just take the guy who's just a great basketball player and doesn't really have the academics to show for it either. He's always had to have guys who are going to put in the work in the classroom, going to put in the work on the court, and I think that's why you've always seen the types of kids he has in the NBA are always bright. They get it. They're smart. Grant Hill, you look at. Kyrie Irving now, you look at. His guys who are in the NBA, I mean, he's got a ton of them. Even today, a lot of guys who are just smart players who know how to play. Situational awareness is huge in basketball. If you want to be a great player, you've got to understand situational awareness. I'll even use an example of a guy like Shane Battier. Shane Battier is not the best player who ever played in the NBA, not an all-time great, but he was a really good basketball player who knew exactly what his role was, and he played it better than anybody. Might not be a better player I've seen in the last 15 years who took a charge and understood how to play defense better and understood his role in defense better than Shane Battier. He just was phenomenal. When you look at the Miami Heat, when they finally won their first championship with LeBron, a significant reason for that was getting Shane Battier. I just think you look at all the guys he's ever had, all the championships he's won, it's because of the standards of Duke, of the players that he's had, and I just think it's something that makes it even more impressive. And for Coach K, I mean, look, to last almost 40 years, you've got to be willing to adapt, and I think that's one thing that he's always done so well, and you hear it all the time. I mean, he's been there for so long that he's seen so many different eras. He's had he's been there when college players stayed a while. He had Grant Hill during that era, and now he's had to adapt his model to fit the one and done. And you hear him talk about it all the time, but I mean, Jabari Parker, one and done. Kyrie Irving, one and done. We look this year at Jahlil Okafor, most likely a one and done. So he's had to change his model, and I think that's the one thing is you can't last in coaching this long and win this many games if you're unwilling to adapt. It's what really stops the innovators from the people who can't make it in businesses like this is people who are willing to adapt and people who aren't willing to adapt. And that's one comparison I always make between Coach K and Bob Knight. And let's not take anything away from Bob Knight, just one of the greatest college coaches of all time, a guy who heavily influenced Coach K. But I just think Bob Knight was a guy who was really stuck in his old ways. I mean, look, he won a lot of games, almost 900, one away from 900 wins, and that speaks a lot. But I think the old Bob Knight, Indiana, scream, throw chairs at people isn't what fits a contemporary, a more modern player. And I just think that model wouldn't work. Coach K is a guy who I think could work at any era because he's always willing to adapt. He knows what he has to do, how to get his players to buy in. And I just think Bob Knight's just a guy who was so stubborn, it was one way and that was the only way. And I think that's the big difference between the two of them is one of the guys is willing to adapt while the other one isn't. And the one thing I always think about is when the Fab Five documentary came out with Michigan, when they had Jalen Rose and Chris Webber and all those other guys, and they played Duke in the national championship, I think that right there just shows you the difference between Duke standards and everyone else. Now, they were phenomenal basketball players. They were just a great team, but I think you look at the big moments, the critical moments in that game, there's a reason why Duke was able to win those games. There's a reason why Coach K has 4 national championships. It's the thing I keep talking about. It's the standards you set. We see it all the time, not just in college basketball, but in all college athletics, is there's that line between your players where they're breaking NCAA rules and all those other things, and sometimes, I mean, it just all comes down to the kind of people you bring into your program. And I mean, I think that's one thing you've always got to give Coach K and Duke a lot of credit for, is that standard that they've kind of never gone away from. Now, we've seen people kind of change that, because when you want to win, sometimes you'll do anything for that. But Coach K's been able to always win, even with those standards that he's always had to meet. And it's always made it just so much more impressive for me. Just an incredible accomplishment. I mean, it's not just that he was such a good college coach. I mean, he's done it on the world stage with Team USA. I mean, it's always just been such a ball to watch him coach LeBron and all these other guys. And I mean, I think you just could tell just from the outpouring of all the NBA players who congratulated him, just what he means to the game of basketball in this country. I mean, when you think of the faces of basketball, just totally, and from college standpoint to the NBA standpoint, I'm not sure if there's a lot of people whose faces I would put there other than Coach K. I mean, just every single time he's on, he's always a guy you want to watch out for, and it's just been a remarkable career. And I don't know, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what's going to slow the guy down. I mean, he looks like he could keep going forever. He really does, but it's been a joy to watch. It'll be a joy to continue watching him. I'm always so appreciative when we kind of are able to grow up in an era like this, because I mean, he was coaching long and far before I was around, but I was able to watch him for a long time, and I'm very thankful for it. But just a big congratulations to Coach K. Well deserved the 1,000th win. Just can't say enough about the program that he made, the winning culture, the ultimate winning culture with the standards that he had to meet. But that is going to do it for this segment. Thank you all for listening, and Coach K, a heck of a job done.